Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown, year number 25. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a lot to get into. The Penguins in kind of a rotten weekend and really in a tailspin all season. We'll get into that later. Also, Paul Skeens is up for 2 big awards. Which ones will he get? But the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown will be the Steelers, and another impressive win to get to 8 wins and 2 losses. Here's your panel to talk about it. It's Jeff Hatthorn, sports director at 93.7 The Fan. And to his left, it's Mark Kaboly from the Pat McAfee Show and Jason Mackey from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. So, Jason, I'm going to start with you on this one. You don't often win games unless you're the Steelers, where you kick 6 field goals, you don't score a touchdown. It's funny because Joe Burrow has 9 touchdown passes against the Ravens this year, no wins. The Steelers get 6 field goals, no touchdowns, and win. What's your biggest takeaway from this game?
The scoring touchdowns is overrated, Bob. You really shouldn't bother. No. My takeaway is that the defense is really good, that Chris Boswell is really good, that the Steelers did what was necessary to win. They shut down Lamar Jackson. They shut down Derrick Henry. I think they should be commended for that. As they embark on more AFC North play, they're going to have to score touchdowns. They're going to have to be better in the red zone. I'm not trying to dwell on negativity after this one. They certainly did enough to earn a victory, and I've liked the trajectory of the Steelers season. But there were plays out there to be had. Some stuff to clean up. But again, if you're doing that after forcing turnovers, after not turning the ball over, playing largely clean football the way the Steelers did, that's a much easier problem to address.
Well, my biggest takeaway is this team is, I think they're legit Super Bowl contenders right now. And I say that because I truly believe, after seeing what I saw today, is they can beat you in so many different ways. I mean, if they can play any game you want, man, if you want to run the ball, they can stop the run. If you want to throw the ball, they can stop the pass. Flipped on the other side, if they have to throw the ball, they can do it. They got good coaching staff. They got depth. I mean, I think they got everything that you need right now. Plus, they have a ton of confidence. I don't know what you saw in that locker room.
Oh, yeah.
My goodness, they were brimming with confidence, and that's what you need right now. And I think right now they are legit Super Bowl contenders. Obviously, that can change as we go on here because I think that they just got a myriad of different ways. I mean, I couldn't even tell you the last time a team could win it in so many different ways. Even the bend teams, even the great defensive teams, they were limited running the ball. They were limiting on defense at some points. Here, it's across the board. They can beat you anyway.
Yeah, I guess I have a similar take on that. It's all 3 phases with this team.
Right.
And they've got a quarterback that knows how to win and a quarterback that can throw downfield consistently for the first time since 2020, maybe even a little bit before that, when Roethlisberger was in his prime. Because they have that quarterback, they've got a shot. They've got a great kicker. They've got a good punter. What did he average, like 50
nets? He had a 71-yarder today.
I mean, all of a sudden, like that part of it, we've seen block kicks. We've seen, plays on special teams. They've found a way of when one part is struggling, another part picks it up. And that's a sign of a really good football team.
Let's talk about this defense. Mark, start with you on this one, because it's doing it in so many different ways. I mean, they can come up and stop the run, like you said, but they had 3 takeaways today. Of the 3, which was your more impressive one? Because for me, it's Peyton Wilson. Just because of what that play represented. Wilson Russell had just thrown an interception in the end zone. They come right back. They're going to maybe take the lead or whatever the case may be. And Peyton Wilson makes a play like an all-pro.
Yeah, that was a pretty impressive play. Just the athletic ability there of him to be able to make that play. But I like the Herbig / Deshaun Elliott one because it happened so early in the game. You didn't want the Ravens to get out ahead of you. I mean, I don't know how much they've trailed this year. It hasn't been much. So if they're able to not turn the ball over there and be able to put some points on the board, maybe it's a different game. But I think that was a very significant play early in the game that pretty much set the tone.
Let me throw another one at you, Pomp. How about the 2-point stop by Joey Porter Jr.? I know it's not a turnover, but I mean, that's a significant play in the game, maybe the significant play in the game. And what I was struck by listening to Peyton Wilson after the game and also Joey Porter Jr. is how much those guys prepared for those plays, how coached they were. They knew what was coming. They had worked on it all week at practice, and they executed those plays. Peyton Wilson talked about this being a wheel route that he was looking for. Mike Tomlin challenged him to make a play on that wheel route and went out and did it. This is what great teams do, guys. I mean, whether it was the punt last week in Washington where they see the look, throw it to James Pierre. I know the execution wasn't there, but these guys time and time again are being prepared for things, and then they're going out and doing it.
Yeah. Well, they've added pieces, and those pieces have contributed. Dante Jackson, you don't see breakdowns on the other side with Dante Jackson there. You see Peyton Wilson making plays and his ability to cover routes. And then Patrick Queen is playing at another level now.
Yeah.
The last few weeks,
motivation
he's the
level for him was
linebacker.
high.
And not just then, but over the last few weeks, you've seen the numbers go up. You've seen the impact go up. They've had new guys come into that system to mesh with some of the stars that were there, and they're a really good defense that not only can stop you, but can ball hawk you. And that's something that since Terrell Austin has been there, they've been the best at forcing turnovers, and that goes to Mark's coaching point.
You know what? They have role players, too. I mean, the Dean Lowry, you saw him today.
Yeah, he made a big play.
And if you look in the history of the Steelers, when they're good on defense, they have those type of guys, the Travis Kerskys of the world, those guys who just fill in certain roles. And what about the old man, number 97, with a...
Old? Not old.
Well, he's old for football, but being able to knock down a couple of those passes are absolutely huge for him. So everything's working right now, man.
All right, let's talk about some of the things that may not be working right, and that would be, I suppose, just, you know, it's hard to pick something at this point because there's some plus 73 in the point differential, which is the best, I think, since 2020. But, Jeff, start with you here. When you look at their offense and the fact that they haven't done a lot in the red zone, I mean, Wilson has done some things. They put Justin Fields in a little bit more. Do you think they need to do more of that? And I'm not saying a whole heavy dose of it, but more of it as they get closer to the end zone? Or do you think it's better just to stick with Russell Wilson, given his ability to make decisions in the passing game at the red zone?
Red zone 2. Red zone 2. I'd like to see more of Justin Fields in the red zone. I think there's been enough time because Russell Wilson was good in the red zone last year. They're not clicking in that area. I mean, I know we saw it today a little bit outside of it. I don't want to. We don't need to see it all the time, all over the field. Right. But in those obvious,
it was a good time today for it.
But
that's for sure.
Here's another one on 3rd or 4th and 1. Even if he doesn't get it,
right,
they're going to be so keyed on him. That's going to help their conversions on, because that was another issue where they struggled today.
Yeah, I don't want to see him being predictable with Justin Fields. I mean, here and there are great. I mean, the second and longs, the third and shorts. Maybe a game or two you don't use him, but I wouldn't want to use him too much because I think it then would lose its effectiveness.
But you know that's going to set up something.
Yeah.
Like they're going to be so geared, somebody's going to get behind the defense.
And you need to have some dummy plays, like Mark was saying. We were talking about this on the pregame show on The Fan. They need to bring him in and just hand the ball off. Bring him in and play action it out, you know, take advantage of different things, not just the Justin Fields run every time. But, I mean, I would be completely in favor of that. I'd also be completely in favor of kind of changing some of the wide receiver, tight end, pass catcher usage. I'm not sure they're using Pat Freiermuth enough still. I don't know quite what happened to Mike Williams. Again, all of this should be prefaced with the idea that it's quibbling. We're talking about it because it's a discussion point, not a gigantic problem. But, yeah, as we look at ways to get better in the red zone, I think those are rocks to unturn.
And, Bob, by the way, I think they tried to go downfield a little bit more in this game. But to the Ravens' credit, they were getting good pressure on Russell Wilson.
Up front, those guys are pretty good. But in the middle of the field, I'm a big stickler for that. We saw a little bit more of that. I hope to see more. When we come back, we'll talk about what lies ahead for the Steelers. They got a game on a short week here. It's Thursday in Cleveland. How big of a problem might that game be? We'll talk about it next right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. All right, welcome back. Steelers don't get much rest this week. They got to go right to Cleveland on a Thursday night. Now, that has historically provided some problems. Okay, guys, Jason, they're 2-8. They got struggles. They're not a very good football team. However, I remember being there a couple of times on a Thursday one where the temperature was like -8, and it's tough to play there. And this may be their Super Bowl type of atmosphere. What do you think? What is the biggest thing that concerns you about this game?
Just that it's on Thursday. Just that there's not a lot of recovery time. I think a lot went into today's win. I think the Steelers were really geared up for the Ravens, commendably so. How much emotion is left? You're having to, basically with no rest, go and summon that up again. If any of these red zone struggles compound, if guys aren't 100%. And I'm still not looking past the Browns. I know the Browns are 2-8. They're not very good. The quarterback situation is suspect at best. But, I mean, this is their Super Bowl. They would love to screw up the Steelers season. The Steelers are riding high after a win against the Ravens. Nothing would please those people more than to ruin the Steelers season.
I don't think you can go up there and just automatically click the check mark on the win column because we've seen it way too many times of them going up there and laying an egg. Now, do you like their chances? Yeah, I think the biggest thing I would think is, Jameis Winston is playing pretty well. You can throw the ball on the Steelers at times, I guess, so I think that would be the biggest one. But, they're coming from New Orleans. It's about the same. I think Cleveland obviously is not very good, but I think the biggest thing is they just can't look past them.
You can say
The
that all you
Tomlin
want,
game,
but human
right?
nature, doesn't human nature take over sometimes? We've seen it a lot in sports, right? You got to watch out for it.
Well, I was not trying to imitate a choke there, but basically the Steelers would have to choke to lose.
Well, they have to
Cleveland.
contribute, yes.
They would have to do what they haven't done all year, which is turn the ball over, which is to make those horrible mistakes that turn into easy points for the other team. You haven't seen that much from this team. That's what would have to happen. And, Jason, your point's right on. I mean, they get 3 days rest before they got to gear right back up again on a primetime game. That's going to be hard.
One of the reasons I like their chances of avoiding a letdown is what we're talking about too, Pomp. Complementary football. You know, figuring that somebody is going to step up. Maybe they get a big special teams play. Maybe they get a pick six. Maybe Najee goes off. I don't know. I'm just naming things. But there are other areas of the game for the Steelers to sort of cover themselves. If maybe the passing game isn't that great, maybe the run defense is a little bit leaky. I don't know. But they've had a lot of different aspects contribute.
Mark, I want to talk about where this division is because I don't think any one of us thought this would play out this way. Whereas the Browns are terrible. We thought maybe they would be, but not this bad. The Bengals, you know, that's a tough situation they're in. And now the Ravens all of a sudden are 3 games behind the Steelers when you count tiebreakers. How do you see this division moving forward, and will there just be one playoff team from it?
I don't think so. If you look, I think the 7th place team right now are the Colts, and they're not even 500 yet. So I think at minimum you get 2, depending on how the Bengals play down the stretch here. But, I mean, this is for the Steelers to win, man. They control their own destiny, man. They win out here. I know that's 15-2, but they're the #1 seed and get the bye because they would have to beat Kansas City, who lost today. So they got everything right out in front of them right here. Worst comes to worst, I think. I mean, you could be a 4 or 5 seed if you don't win the division. But up 2 games at this point, it's just, you know, monumental.
Yeah, I go back to 2020 though, 11-0, and what happened after that? Different circumstances, different teams, right?
That team
but
stunk.
I understand that, but you still have situations that can happen. Look at last year with Philadelphia, right? Didn't they go right down the drain at the end of the season? Really inexplicably, I thought.
I mean, they haven't figured everything out. I mean, as Tomlin said after the game, there are a lot of warts, and Boswell covers warts very well, especially offensively. So there are some things they have to figure. But, man, for me, when I look at that division, the one team I want to see buried and not in the postseason are the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't want to see Joe Burrow in a postseason matchup.
No, I don't want to see them the second half of the season, period. Like, I still think they're relatively dangerous. I also look at the Ravens, Pomp, and I think the Steelers did a good job of handling them. They took care of business in their home stadium the way they should. The Ravens are going to get the Steelers again in December at their place. It could be completely flipped. Like, you know, I don't think they've asserted any sort of significant dominance over the Ravens. They had a good week, and that's okay. They should be commended for that. But there's still a lot of football to be played in this division.
And that's where the schedule really stinks because they're going to have that physical game in Baltimore, and then 3 days later have to play Kansas City.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And that's part of a 3 games in 11 days, right?
I think
it was Philly
what
right
they're
that.
at right now, too.
Yeah.
I mean, with Washington and Baltimore and now Cleveland, what was that, 3 games?
Yeah, but this would be a Sunday, Saturday, Wednesday, right? So that's
which is very difficult to do. But hey, there's not a team in the AFC right now, whether you're going to their place or at home, that I wouldn't believe that the Steelers could win.
We do not care.
We do not blink.
Hey, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Oh, how about that line?
How about that
Bravo.
line?
Bravo.
Chris Hogan and I were sitting there saying, did he really just say that? Yes, he did. That's Mike Tomlin on Patrick Queen. When we come back, we're going to flip it to the Penguins, who have all sorts of problems going on. What do they do at this point? Is there going to be a reaction from the team? We'll talk about it when we come back right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. All right, welcome back. #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. Talk about the Penguins. Yeah, not a good weekend. Yeah, I know they beat San Jose, but they blew a 3-0 lead. Columbus was a disaster. So, Jeff, start with you on this one. They have a lot of problems. We haven't seen much of a reaction from the management, Kyle Dubas, other than to put some players in who were down at Wilkes-Barre. Should there be a bigger reaction, or is this something they're just going to have to play through until the end of the year and then figure it out?
But I think that is a reaction. We are seeing some of the younger players. You saw Owen Pickering for the first time. I think that is a reaction. It's not verbal, but it's very situational. They throw it out there without having to say it. They're looking at the bigger picture, and they're bringing up young guys, and they kind of realize that they've probably buried themselves a quarter into the season.
Yeah, Jason, I mean, the problems, it's the roster composition is a problem. A lot of people want to put all the focus on coaching. I understand that. In hockey, coaches take a lot of it. A lot of times they're scapegoats. Where is the problem, or the biggest problem for you?
I mean, the biggest problem is the players playing responsibly. The biggest problem is the players playing responsible with the puck, defending hard, sorting out defensive coverages, all of this on-ice stuff. But you can't flip a switch and just magically change all of that stuff. Mike Sullivan, I think the world of Mike Sullivan. I've written this. But he's the second longest tenured coach in the NHL. It's not going well. They have a very, very big decision staring them in the face with 87, 71, and 58. What they do with those guys. To arrive at that decision, I don't know how you don't first stop at, is this the right coach for the team? Maybe you change out the coach and see if that's the problem. I understand what Jeff is saying with the youth movement. I have a little bit of a problem with the totality of it. Like, why is Joel Blomqvist in the minors? He's been their best goalie. If you're going to bring up the kids,
that was my next question.
It would seem like they're playing Jari, hope he gets on a little bit of a run and they can trade him somewhere.
Right.
That would be
that's not going to happen. I mean, I saw what he did in Columbus, and whatever he was working on in the AHL and away from the team, it did not work. So, I mean, I'm fine going all in on the youth movement, but I don't understand if you have one lever to pull to see if this is for real or not with the coach, why you don't pull the lever.
Mark, what would you do?
First of all, Sully talks well of you, too. He says he likes you.
Good. All the time you spend talking to Sully.
I just don't know where you go with this team, to be honest. I mean, you could talk about the youth movement all you want, but even regardless of who you bring up, it's not going to be much of a difference. And they're not star players down there that are going to make much of a difference. I am totally against getting rid of Mike Sullivan because, I mean, you can only do as much as your talent suggests right now, and they just don't have the talent. Now you have to question yourself, why does this happen every single year? What you're talking about, some of the on-the-ice stuff. Why aren't they listening?
Yeah.
Well, because they're been around for a long time, a lot of them, and have done that. My question would be, what do you do? You can say play young players, but who do they play in place of? You have these guys, you could add 65 to your list of 87.
You've just mentioned 3 Kyle Dubas signings, by the way. Ryan Graves, Erik Karlsson, and Tristan Jarry.
Wow.
That ain't great.
All right, so I would say quickly this about Sullivan. He may not be to blame, but he's playing a system that his team can no longer play.
And expecting them to play it.
To what his team is best at.
Well, we don't know what he's tried to adjust. We know what the on-ice product looks like. A lot of times those guys are just freelancing and doing whatever the heck they want. You can say that there's a system where Erik Karlsson pinches, and he does. I don't know if Mike Sullivan is constantly telling Erik Karlsson to pinch or is like, hey, maybe just like hang back a little bit. And he's just not listening. We don't know the answer.
Maybe he says, we stink and I'll do what I want to do.
Yep, and he might chase points. And that's a problem.
It is.
That's a problem.
They have a goaltending issue, you're right. Bloomberg's on the minors, and Jari's up here. They better hope he gets it right, and he did not look confident at all against Columbus. They have a good game coming up here against Tampa Bay on Tuesday night, and a schedule that gets harder. When we come back, how about Paul Skeens? He's up for 2 awards, and this week we're going to find out which ones he wins. Is it both? Is it one? Is it none? Next. Well, tomorrow we're going to find out who's the Rookie of the Year in the National League, and then later in the week we're going to find out who's the National League Cy Young Award. Paul Skeens is a finalist for both. So, Jeff, I'm going to start with you. Let's talk about Rookie of the Year. Jackson Merrill, good player. Unlike this year, another year he probably wins it. Should he win it over Paul Skeens, or is it all Paul Skeens?
Let's hear something that we never hear in Pittsburgh. Who knows who Jackson Merrill is? But everybody knows who Paul Skeens is. Paul Skeens should be Rookie of the Year.
Mark?
Did you watch the Padres against the Pirates this year? I'm sure people know who Jackson Merrill is.
No, they don't.
Hey, they got
What position does he play?
I would say somewhere in the outfield.
Somewhere in the outfield.
He's a rover, but what do you think?
He's a rover.
Left
Four
center.
outfielders.
Do you think it's a fait accompli? Because I do.
Yeah, I think he'll win the Rookie of the Year. I don't think he'll win Cy Young.
We'll get to that in a moment.
I mean, the name recognition is huge.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah, but so is making the playoffs. If you're going to make a case for Jackson Merrill, you have to say he's a rookie and he led them in a lot of different things.
But how many of these voters, how many people vote for this? Like hundreds?
Jason's a voter.
Is that a crazy amount of number?
Yeah, it's a couple people from each BBWA chapter.
So everybody looks at this and
probably
says, oh, Paul Skeens, I hear his name and I see him on TikTok and it's a Steeler game. And
no, Olivia doesn't always an asset.
But the big argument here is position player versus pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And you can look at Jackson Merrill. If I'm going to say Jackson Merrill should be the Rookie of the Year, it's the same argument. You have an MVP that's not a pitcher because he plays every day. He can impact the game every day. My counter argument to that would be Paul Skeens can't affect that. Paul Skeens affects what he does. He does a premium job that people get paid a lot of money to do, and did it better than anybody since he came up.
Right. All right, Cy Young. Now he's in this. He's a finalist. Real quick, I only have like less than a minute.
All right.
Wheeler, Sale, and Skeens. If you don't penalize him since he came up in May.
If you don't penalize him because of when he came up, Paul Skeens has been the most dominant pitcher this year.
But he won't win it, right? Who will win it?
I think Sale will win it, but I
10
want
seconds to you, Mark.
for Skeens.
I don't think Skeens will win it. I think Sale will win it.
I think Sale will win it. I don't think you can discount the sample size.
All right. Well, there you go. We're going to find out this week. You also know coming up, it's Black Friday coming up all month long at #1 Cochran Kia with up to $1,000 in extra savings. You get $500 off the clear-cut price of any new vehicle, plus an additional $500 over KBB for your trade. You can also stack your $1,000 off with special lease and financing offers to achieve maximum pricing power. So don't miss Black Friday all month long at #1 Cochran Kia until November the 30th. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. Only have 40 seconds. Prediction time, Jeff. Steelers, Browns. And give me a hero.
21-10 Steelers, Mike Williams.
Oh, okay. Out of the box.
I'm going 21-17 Cleveland Browns, even though T.J. Watt, look at his numbers against the Browns. Unbelievable.
Jason?
217-12. Steelers win. Russell Wilson gets back on it as a really strong game.
There we go. Thanks to Mackey, Kaboly, and Hatthorn. I'm Bob Pompeani. Have a good week. We'll see you this week on KDKA-TV.
Cleveland?